You're listening to The Happy Podcast with your host, Ava Keenan.
Hi everybody, today we are here with Tess Johnson and we're going to be asking a couple questions just about skiing and being an athlete in general. So let's get started. So we're going to start off with the basic question, how did you get into mogul skiing?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Ava. I'm super honored to be your first guest. This is so cool that you're starting your own podcast. Really, really special and impressive at 12 years old, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so to answer your question, I started skiing when I was 2 years old. And my parents are both from the East Coast, but they moved out here. My dad was a raft guide and a ski patroller. My mom was a ski instructor, and they were just living the life. And then they had my sister and me and my little brother, and they taught us all how to ski right here on Beaver Creek. And I think I don't remember, but I think I just loved it instantly. And my mom has told me that I kind of started carving really early on, and yeah, the rest is history since then. I've loved it ever since.
Yeah, that's really cool. And obviously the more popular sports are like racing over than like mogul skiing. So how did you choose mogul skiing over those other more popular ones now?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story. So I never really was too interested in alpine skiing, which is the gates. I loved to jump, and I really wanted to do slopestyle. I think I was about 8 years old, and I've always been really competitive. And so I was doing the Bevo program at Beaver Creek for a few years, and my mom and my dad had heard of Ski and Snowboard Club Vail as a competitive program, and they thought it would be great for me. And so my mom was looking through programs that would have jumping for me because she knew how much I loved to jump, and she signed me up for bumps and jumps because I was too young to do the slopestyle program. So she was like, oh, bumps and jumps, that has jumps in it. And as it turned out, it was mogul skiing, what I do today and what you do as well, Ava. And I actually ended up loving the bumps even more than the jumps, but the coaches and all of my teammates kind of took me under their wing immediately, and it was just a community I knew I wanted to be a part of.
That's really, really cool. Now, once you were in moguls and you loved them, what made you want to pursue them as a career?
I would have to say a few things. So one, I kind of surprised myself at first how much fun I had, but kind of how naturally skiing moguls came to me, and the competitor that I am, I thrive when I'm feeling like I'm successful, and I think we all do. So I felt like, oh, I'm pretty good at this, and I have fun with it, and I like it, so I'm going to keep doing it. And then I watched Hannah Carney win gold in 2010. I watched from my living room. I think I was sitting up as close to the TV as I possibly could get. I was on the floor, just starstruck by her perfect run. And I remember watching Shannon Barkey, who got bronze, come up and give her the biggest hug, and just thinking that that was so cool. And I would say that was kind of the distinct moment that my Olympic dreams were born. And I knew that I wanted to dedicate my life or the next whatever years to winning the Olympics for the USA and for making the national team.
That's really cool. That's really interesting. I love that. Now, you talked about the Olympics, and I know that this year was a tough year not making it into the Olympics. So how did you handle that?
Yeah, it was really tough. Behind me, you can see that's my bib from Pyeongchang. So I'm a 2018 Olympian. I was 17 years old when I went to that Olympics, and it was a magical experience, like dream come true. Was totally an underdog going into it and at the games. So this year, 4 years later, I was really peaking in my career, and I was skiing better than I ever have this past season. And I was looking really good, or so I thought, to make the Olympics, and it didn't work out, and that was heartbreaking. And I think that everyone has gone through some type of loss and heartbreak like that in their life, whether it's sports related or a relationship, whatever it is. And so that was kind of one of the toughest losses that I've experienced in my life. And it was really hard and emotional. And I think that on top of just being a professional athlete training for the Olympics during a pandemic created this whole other layer of stress and anxiety. And I mean, leading up to the Olympics, all of us on the US ski team had been isolated from every single person we knew for weeks. And so I ended up going to China as an alternate, which was very hard and emotionally draining, but I took some time with my family after and skied Vail, my favorite mountain, which is where I'm from. And I just kind of focused on tapping back into my passion for mogul skiing, and I finished the season off strong, and I'm committed to the next 4 years. So it's kind of all part of it, is that the triumph and the defeat. You'll find that, Ava, as you continue on in your career. It's all part of it.
Yeah, well, I'm very sorry that happened, but it seems like you took that as a learning lesson. So
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So preparing for the next 4 years, what are you going to do, or how are you going to train to make sure that this won't happen again?
Well, I mean, looking back on it, I think what I've realized and what I've learned is that I wouldn't do anything differently. I focused on what I could control. I performed very well, the best I ever have, and I'm really proud of everything I did. I think my process was spot on, and I think I just kind of need to continue on that journey of focusing on what I can control. And I think I'm in a great spot with my training and my jumps. That was kind of the biggest focus this year, was increasing my degree of difficulty, adding in a cork 7, which has been a long time dream of mine. And so I think for the next 4 years, it's just about continuing on that journey of improving my weak points in the sport. And what I love to focus on, especially at this point in my career, it's very important, is my mentality in working with a sports psychologist. So I really think I'm on the right track, and I think I'm proud of everything I did, and I won't be changing too much.
Yeah, you have been on a really nice track. I've been watching you the whole way. You've done some really amazing things. Good job.
Thank you.
You're talking about sports psychology and your mental game. How do you work on that other than your sports psychologist?
Yeah, so there's a few things, and I have worked with a sports psychologist since I was 14 years old. John Dowling, who is your coach as well, he kind of recommended it to me when I was 14, and I really struggled with the nerves of competing and those butterflies that we all get when we step into the start gate. And I think I worried about the outcome, and I still do. I worry about the outcome, and it kind of takes away from my focus on what's really important in that moment. So I've worked with a sports psychologist, the same one at the US Ski Team, for about 4 years now, and I love working with him. We meet, I would say, on average once a week, once every 2 weeks. But in addition to that, I practice mindfulness every single day, at least 10 minutes, because not only does it help staying in the moment and staying mindful with my sport, but I think it's really helped just in life and in my relationships and just as me as a person. So I'd really recommend practicing mindfulness to everyone. And then another thing that I've started doing this year, which I think is pretty cool, it's a little bit nerdy, is some visualization. And so what I'll do is I'll dress up in my entire outfit, my ski outfit, poles, gloves, helmet, goggles, and I'll just be in my bedroom or my garage. And I'll close my eyes and visualize a competition day. And so that's 3 runs. That's qualifications, finals, and super finals. And I'll visualize each run, and I'll visualize the process at the top of the course of me warming up and me, 2 out from my competition run, and then in the start gate and riding up the chair even. And that has really helped me a lot. And actually going into one of the World Cups this year that I podiumed at, I visualized that day about 20 times before it happened. And so the idea is that if you can visualize it super realistically, with, all of the potential distractions and obstacles, all of the noises you hear, the people you're going to run into, then by the time you get there, you've already done it. And so it gives me a lot of confidence. So those are a few things that I work on in sports psychology, and they're really fun to experiment with. I just am fascinated by anything psychology related.
That's really amazing. I really like that. So you're talking about being in the start gate and getting those butterflies, and obviously when like everything starts like fizz up and you get like really tense, like how do you handle that? Because I know a lot of people struggle with that, and that can like throw them off.
Yeah. I have struggled with that. I think everyone has, and I think our sport is so unique in that you really do need to perform when it counts. I compare it to kind of something like really like racing, alpine racing. There's no judges in that sport. It's just you and the clock. We have a 7-judge panel and the clock and all of our competitors, many of whom are teammates, some of our closest friends. So there's a lot of layers to what we have to, overcome when we step into the start gate. And I think for me, what it comes down to is trusting my training, trusting my process, trusting that I've done everything I can and that I'm ready for that moment. That gives me confidence. And then it's just about doing it, really. And it sounds so simple and it sounds so easy, but it's not. It's very hard. And so I think like kind of just finding that balance between intensity, the right intensity and the right composure is, that's what everyone strives for. That's what Mikkel Kingsbury does so well every single time. Like I said, mindfulness has really helped me with that moment and just kind of taking a deep breath, trusting everything that I've done so far and letting it rip, because at my point in my career, I've done so many reps. I've done so many jumps and T2Bs and skied so many moguls that really it's just about what goes on in my head. So yeah, it's a combination of things. And I think on any given day, there's so many possible distractions, like what another competitor just did, or maybe someone just fell where you were struggling, or maybe this is the event that would qualify you for the Olympics. And all of those are very real. And so for me, it's not about like ignoring them or trying to get rid of them, but just accept those for what they are and realize that I'm still going to do what I planned to do.
Yeah, that was really cool. I definitely needed to hear that from like professional, because that was really cool. So you were talking about like your process. I know a lot of people before they go for the run, does it affect you when people are cheering for you, or like are you listening to music, or do you just kind of tune all that out and just focus on your run?
Well, like I was saying earlier, for me, I think when I've tried to tune things out and ignore things, I think it makes me more nervous, if that makes sense, because then I'm spending energy trying to ignore something that's happening, and I don't need to waste energy on that. So it's more about just kind of accepting the reality and that there are going to be distractions, that this is a competition that I really want to win. And yeah, that's the reality. And that's totally okay. It doesn't change that I'm about to focus on keeping my hands up in the top section. And it doesn't change that I'm going to try to narrow my line in the top of the middle section, So it's kind of like about accepting the reality and then bringing my attention back to certain cues that I know will make me ski well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I don't really listen to music. I listen to music when I warm up in the lodge, but other than that, I kind of like to just experience it all. And it's almost like a challenge to me, like how nervous can I get and still ski my run? Because that's kind of the most rewarding at the end of the day. If you have so many distractions and you're so nervous and there's so much pressure and you still ski your run, that's the biggest confidence booster that anyone can ever have.
Yeah, It's definitely something I need to learn because when I went to junior nationals, I just came back from an injury and I was standing at the top and everybody was like cheering and like, you're going to do great. And I was just trying to block them out, but it like wasn't working. And I just like wasn't focused on what I should have been focusing on.
Right.
And that definitely, I think, messed me up. And so once they're like competitor ready, I was not ready at all. And I was in the wrong headspace. So I think that's definitely a key piece because that definitely messed me up.
Yeah. I mean, I totally know where you're coming from. I've been there and I've been there this season. Like it's something that you're going to be working on forever, but it gets easier with experience. And the more that you practice that the more you work that muscle of just bringing back your focus to what you want it to be on. And that's why I practice mindfulness every single day, because really you're sitting there, you're closing your eyes, you're focusing on your breathing, and we're only human. We're going to get distracted. We're going to start thinking about things. We're going to think about, what we need to do tomorrow, or that homework assignment that I forgot to do, or, oh, like my leg hurts. And so then when you realize you've been distracted, you're like, oh, like I'm distracted right now, or I'm nervous, or there's a bunch of people cheering for me in your case. That's okay. I'm just going to focus on, whatever it is. Like I call them cues. I'm just going to bring my focus back to my cue, which is often like chest up in the top air or something like that. Yeah. But I mean, that's a perfect like example, Ava, of what I've been through and what every other athlete has been through.
Yeah. So do you ever have high expectations going into a competition?
Yes. Always. Mm-hmm.
And what happens if those expectations are not met?
I get really sad and I get really critical of myself, and it's really hard. So in the past few years, I've tried to kind of differentiate expectations and standards. And so I think it's really important for people to always hold themselves to the highest standards. But I think expectations can be harmful if they're not met, like you said.
Yeah.
And I think that, going into an event, going into a training session, it's important to have a plan and plan out what you're going to do, why you're going to do that, and what goal that's going to help you achieve. And if you stick to that plan, then you've done everything you can. And that's you holding yourself to that high standard. If the outcome isn't what you wanted it to be, then at least you can have assurance knowing that you stuck to your plan and you did everything you could and you controlled what you could. And so I think that that's kind of the epitome of like focusing on the process rather than the outcome. Because when you fall short of expectations, it's a bummer. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that anytime, you lose, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. And it's not going to feel good. And no matter how much you say, oh, I stuck to my plan and try to be positive and that's all great, but it's still going to hurt. We're human and we want to win. And I know how badly you want to win too, Ava.
Yeah.
Like, we're competitive people and that's okay. But you can use that to, fuel future plans rather than just getting down on yourself and kind of losing hope, because that's a pretty toxic place to go.
Yeah. I a lot of the times I go into that like beating myself up and like losing hope, and I go to that area, like for example juniors again. I came in with super high expectations, even though I was out for like 5.5 weeks, and then I came in with like 3 days of training after that, and then I went to juniors, and I did like really bad. I think I got like 56 or something like that, and I was like, and I wanted to do like a lot better, and I was super super disappointed when I got down to the bottom. I was telling myself that I suck and I don't even know why I came here after 3 days of training. That is such a stupid idea. So, and then I kind of used that to like tell myself that it's gonna happen sometimes. And I used to work through it because I think the biggest mistake was not doing bad in the runs, but beating myself up after when that was not needed. It was very unnecessary and it would just bring you down even more. So yeah, I think definitely all the things you said there were very, very important. And I agree with every single word.
Yeah, you're super wise to realize that. Like, the mistake isn't, messing up in your run or falling. It's, beating yourself up and feel like calling yourself a failure when failure is totally natural, and it really helps people like us with, a lot of drive and a lot of competitiveness. So
yeah. Now that I look back, I probably would have been more happy getting the 56 and getting done after my run to be like, it's fine. I didn't do my best. Like, it's fine. Like, I did what I did. I tried my best. Like, it's fine. Like, I looking back, I thought it was so stupid how I beat myself up because there was nothing I could do about it.
Totally. Yeah. And I think it's really important to, like, I'll just reemphasize, like, setting those goals and making sure those goals are realistic in the sense of the standard you want to hold yourself to. For example, my goals are almost always performance related, not results related. So I'm focusing on, okay, today I want to do, I want to ski out of my cork 7 with tight feet. Or it could be a mental thing, like I want to have fun today. And when the day's over, whether I've won, whether I've got a podium, whether I didn't make finals, whether I crashed, if I go back to that goal and I say, well, did I do that? Did I ski out of my cork 7 with tight feet? Did I have fun? If the answer is yes, then that's a success, even though, of course, you want to win. Of course, we all want to win. That's totally natural. It's important to stay focused on that process in those kind of smaller goals that are more performance related and more related on what you can control. Because at the end of the day, this sport, like I said, is judged by humans. It's judged by other people who, will have biases, whether they're intending to or not. They might make mistakes. They're going to mark you the way that they want to mark you. And that's just the reality of the sport. So it would be unwise to, place all of your goals in like another human's hands, right?
Yeah.
If you look at it that way, it's like, oh, well then, yeah, my goals should probably be more performance related.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're talking about failures and success. How do you define success?
That's a good question. I mean, I think success is just, I guess to say it in fewer words, but it's basically like knowing that you did your best to achieve the goal that you set. And so I'm just big on goal setting, and because it's helped me so much, and literally writing down my goals, and knowing, like, I guess when everything is said and done, knowing in my heart that I put everything into it, that I planned for it, that I had the right mentality for it, and I did my very best. I think that at the end of the day, if I can say that I did all those things, that's successful.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That's trying your best and doing your best also. Yeah. Success.
Yeah, exactly. And like really following through. And I know the Ski and Snowboard Club Vail talks a lot about commitment, and that's kind of what success takes. It takes committing to that goal fully, on and off the hill, in your bedroom, dressed up in your ski clothes. Like, that's definitely what success takes.
Yeah. Going back to always wanting to win and not wanting to make mistakes, also, like, I don't think it would be a good thing if you won every single time, because then you wouldn't really learn. You just stay how you ski and you stay what you've been doing, and it doesn't really benefit you in any way because you don't know what you need to fix. So, yeah, I think that's definitely a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I would also say Just that now that we're talking, you kind of made me think of this. I think also success, like at the end of a day or season, I think a huge part of success is learning something and taking something away from an event, a run, someone else's run even. And I think the more you're learning, the more you can evolve and change as a skier, an athlete, a person. And I think that is instrumental to success, especially in women's mogul skiing. It has evolved so much over the past 2 years only. And everyone is getting so good and changing their tricks and getting faster and stronger. And so if you aren't learning and changing, then you're going to get left behind. And that was a lesson I learned the hard way about 3 years ago. And so I think success takes a lot of learning and willing to look in the mirror and see what needs to adapt and change to reach your goals. Because that's definitely what this sport takes. And I would imagine many other sports.
Yeah, definitely. So talking about being a woman athlete, what do you think about being a woman athlete in today's world?
Oh my gosh, I think it's the coolest thing ever. I mean, I think female athletes across the world, across all sports and disciplines are just like making history, setting records and proving to other young women and girls around the world that they can do it too. And I mean, that's a huge reason why I am where I am today. It's because of women like Hannah Carney and Shannon Barkey and, I mean, Gabby Douglas, Simone Biles, Abby Wambach, just incredible women who have really just shown the world what we're capable of. And so it's cool to be just a very, very small part of that.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So we've seen women's mogul skiing evolve so much just in the 2010 Olympics. For the airs, back lay to 360. Now that's what we're doing in our RMD competitions. And now the female women in the World Cups are doing core sevens to back X. What do you think? How much more do you think it'll evolve in the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a really good question. 5 to 10 years, I think it'll evolve a ton. I mean, we've already seen Kai Owens, Liz Lemley, Olivia Giacchio throwing cork tens, and many, many other women are not far behind with that. So in the next 5 to 10 years, I think that will be a consistent trick. And, for those who don't know, not even all the men are throwing cork tens. Yeah. So that's pretty special. But then, not on the air side of things, I think jumping is kind of an easy way to measure the progress of the sport. But I think in the skiing, we're skiing so much faster than we used to. And we're skiing with a lot more strength than we used to. I mean, Perrine and Henri and Jalen Koff are often rivaling the men in speed times and just in general technique. I mean, some of my favorite mogul skiers, most of my favorite mogul skiers are women just because of the way they ski and their style and their technique. So, oh gosh, in 10 years, I can't even honestly fathom what women's mogul skiing will look like, because I don't think that those tricks have even been invented yet, and I don't even think that skiing has happened yet. So that's pretty cool. But in the next Olympics 4 years from now, I think it'll look relatively similar, just because the past 2 years there's been such a jump, and I think we're going to be spending the next Olympic cycle kind of perfecting those runs. But honestly, I mean, I could see anything happening. I just never will underestimate the power of the women in this sport.
Yeah. So you talked about the men a little bit and how you look up to some of their mogul skiing, but mostly women. What do you think the main difference is between women's mogul skiing and the way that men mogul ski?
That is a very good question. I mean, I think women's mogul skiing is more creative. Especially in competition. I think the men tend to get caught up in power and speed, which is not a bad thing. But I think the women tend to get more creative in their path and style. And so I think you see more distinct skiing. But that's a really tough question because there are some incredible different styles of skiing on the men's side as well. But yeah, I guess some of my favorite mogul skiers, maybe they just happen to be women. I'm not really sure why.
Yeah. So when you were talking about like your teammates and how they're like on the heels of the men, how so they've been progressing so much, do you look up to any of your teammates, and who would those people be?
I look up to all my teammates, every single one of them. I'm close friends with all of them. We've been through a lot together, 2 Olympic cycles now, and they're some of my closest friends. And yeah, each of them has their own, I think, legacy in this sport, their own specialty in their skiing and competing, and they're all just great people. So yeah, I look up to every single one.
That's really amazing. That's really cool. So we're kind of getting to the end here. So when we're talking about training and how hard you train, you go to the gym all the time, how you do all this mental work, all the visualizing, has there ever been a time when you don't want to go skiing and you don't want to train? And like, how do you handle those days?
Yes, there has been. I used to struggle a ton with water ramping. That was my least favorite part of the sport, and it almost drove me to wanting to quit. Not actually, but there were days when I was just like, because water ramping, for those who don't know, is, I mean, at my point in my career, it's 40 plus days in the summer of walking upstairs, performing a aerial maneuver into a pool, and then doing that again about 25 times every day. And it is really fun, and I like learned to love it, but it just gets really repetitive and really monotonous. And especially when you're working on such minute details of a jump and it gets so technical, it's really easy to get burnt out, really. And I think that I've gotten to that point a few times with water ramping. Another reason why I didn't like water ramping, and this is the main one, is that it was my weakest point. And jumping for a while was my weakest point. And so I often just convinced myself that I would never get better at it, that I was a failure, and so that there was almost no point in trying, because I would watch girls pass me and younger girls pass me, and I'd watch the boys, and it was really debilitating. And I had to figure out how to change my outlook on water ramping to love it, because I love this sport so much and I didn't want to quit. And I wasn't going to take that. I wasn't going to give up because of water ramping. Mm-hmm. And so I changed my outlook and I figured out how to have fun with it. And I got a lot better at it a lot quickly once I changed my attitude. And I've had a ton of fun with it the past 2 summers, and I'm really looking forward to water ramping, which is not something I used to say. Yeah. So it's kind of all about changing your outlook, really, and examining what about something makes you dislike it, or what about something makes you not want to do it, or makes you tired or feel burnt out. And once you kind of get under that level, you can start to make changes. And that's what really helped me a lot.
Yeah, so I definitely do not like water ramps either. And I just think that they're pretty boring, and especially on those really either really cold or really hot days, especially those, you get in the water and then everything is 10 pounds heavier. They have to hike up such a long set of stairs just to fix something that's this big. It just doesn't seem worth it. And so I'm definitely trying to like them more, but it's difficult. So how did you change your outlook? How did you?
Yeah, I'll tell you how. So it's a few things. So one, I decided to just try more tricks and not get so focused and get such bad tunnel vision on one trick. because, for a while it was like a back full and then it was a cork 7, and I just wasn't really good at either. And I would just do them all day. And it just wasn't working. And so I kind of decided to not do so much of one trick per day. So I'd do about 5 cork 7, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm going to do some back mutes. And okay, now I'm going to do some back tucks. And now I'm going to do some 360s, even though I don't do them anymore. They're kind of fun. And so that helped, just kind of adding some variation. And that, it can only help your jumping, just trying more tricks and like improving your air awareness. So that in itself is training. You're not avoiding training. You're almost just broadening your training and making it better. Strategy 2, and this is what Riley Campbell, my coach for the past decade, helped me with. So he would kind of come up with challenges on any given day, and we'd kind of come up with games, and he'd score some of my jumps, and he would, I don't know exactly what other games we'd play, but basically it made it fun and competitive. And so I realized that water ramping is so far away from the competitive season, and it feels like, that's so far away. And for someone like me who is very competitive and needs that outlet, it was a really big motivator for me to go up the stairs and be like, okay, I'm supposed to land 1 foot to the right. And some days Riley would be like, okay, and then I'll buy you a candy bar if you do that. So there was incentive, right?
Yeah.
I'm like a 5-year-old out there, but that's what it took. And so kind of just adding that little competitive piece, and then I'd kind of compete with my teammates too. And I'd be like, all right, let's do a little comp sim here, or let's play let's see who can do the biggest front flip or something like that. And so it made it more fun. First, that was the most important, was that it was more fun. And then when it got fun, I started seeing so many more improvements in my jumping.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I'd love to do those games that you mentioned. That sounds like so much fun. I feel like that just add it, just make it more enjoyable, more excited to go.
Exactly, and it makes it a lot less boring, like you were saying.
Yeah. Are there still any more days that you don't want to go, or are those kind of behind you? Or are you just kind of always excited to go?
No, there are definitely days when I feel tired. It's more of a physical and mental fatigue.
Yeah.
Not burnout, which is different, but just kind of fatigue from training and working really hard. Because if you're working really hard, you're going to be tired.
Yeah.
If you're not tired, you probably aren't working hard enough, honestly. So yes, there are days when I'm exhausted, and some days so much so to the point where I will take a day off, Mm-hmm. And I think that that's part of just growing up and learning things about yourself as an athlete. Some days it's best to take the day off, honestly, whether you need it for a physical recovery or a mental recovery. Sometimes that's the answer, but other times it's just finding that motivation to get out there. And for me, this is something that I've always thought of since I was 10 years old. I'll just picture an Olympic gold medal.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm doing a hard workout, if I'm doing bike sprints and I'm just like, oh, this is so hard, I can't do it, I'll just picture an Olympic gold medal around my neck. And it gets me through some of the harder times, which is why not making the Olympics this year was so heartbreaking, was because, the Olympics and winning an Olympic gold medal, that dream means so much to me, and it gets me through the harder days. But that's a beautiful thing. And, whether I will do my very, very best to make it to the next Olympics and win that, I'll probably be competing against you, Ava. But that's kind of what I think each person needs to get through those harder days, is that core dream. And that's what's so magical about those dreams, is that it can turn us into superheroes and turn us into people and things that we didn't think we could do. So it's very powerful, the dream that we share.
Yeah, I love that, especially when you were talking about putting in the extra work, because sometimes it's just that work that got you there. and just that little bit of extra work that nobody else is willing to do that got you there. So, yeah, I definitely like that. So on those days that you don't want to go, who is that person that supports you? And just in general, who is your biggest supporter?
Oh, that's a tough question. I have a lot of amazing supporters. But I would say Riley, my coach, has been there every step of the way. He's been there every day for training, every competition day, a part of my sports psychology sessions every now and then. And I know he has my back 100% and believes in me 100%, which is really important to have that because it's an individual sport, but it takes a team. It takes a full team to achieve dreams like this. And mogul skiing is way more of a team sport than I ever imagined it to be for so many reasons, but that one especially is supporters will get you there just as much as you can get you there. So Riley, my parents, my family, I think a lot of people in mogul skiing would owe a lot of their success to their family. And yeah, John Dowling, he's such an amazing coach. I mean, there's just so many great people in this sport and in the Vail ski community, the freestyle community, that have been very supportive of me and everyone else. So a lot of people to thank.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So we've been definitely talking a lot about skiing and the goals, but what are you planning on doing after your career ends and skiing is done?
Well, I really want to pursue clinical psychology. All of my work with sports psychology has really made me fall in love with that type of work, and I don't know exactly what I want to do, maybe a sports psychologist or maybe something else, but I love working with people. I love talking with people. I mean, I'm enjoying this podcast so much, just talking to you. So that's what I want to do professionally long term, but I'd also really like to explore like big mountain skiing and because I mean, I think I'll be a lifelong skier for sure. I mean, this sport is in my blood. It's in all of our blood, and I'm not going to be able to mogul ski forever. So I would definitely want to transition into maybe, film skiing, competing in big mountain. I'm not really sure, but I'd love to explore that.
Yeah, that would be really interesting, especially that big mountain idea. Like I just today while free skiing, Vail got dumped on, and I was like doing all these cool features. I'm like, whoa, this is like really cool. So yeah,
totally. And I'm biased, but I mean, I think mogul skiers are the best skiers on the mountain.
Agreed.
And like, I think we can do anything. So I think like having that mogul skier representation in the big mountain community could be really cool. I think we'd make some. I don't know. I think we'd make some history for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So you've had this big smile on your face this entire podcast, and that got me to thinking to a question. How do you define happiness?
Oh my gosh, that is really tough. I have no idea. How do you define happiness?
Oh my gosh. It's really tough.
Right? It's hard. I don't know. I mean, I think just like doing what you love and being surrounded by the people that you love, really. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but I really think that's what makes me the happiest is doing what I love, which is skiing and being outside and doing it with my teammates and my friends and my family. Like, that's when I'm my happiest.
Yeah, that's probably how I would define success too. Just doing things or being with people that puts a smile on your face and that, like, how do I word this? Like, it's so tough. Yeah.
Well, that's tough.
Basically how I would define happiness as well. Just doing things that you love, being around the people that you love as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I think that is about it. Is there anything else that you'd like to add or ask me?
What are your summer plans? for training and just in general?
My summer plans. I have a lot. So I think first would be, I want to say first comes, no, momentum camps.
What session are you doing?
I saw that you were coaching the second one. Ooh, that's a good question. I will figure that out, but I know I'm doing 2 of them.
Okay.
Because I want to be there for a relatively longer time than I have in the past. So I'm doing 2 sessions of momentum, and then I'm heading over to Mount Hood, Oregon, where I will be. Oh, I just found out that I am doing momentum second and third sessions.
Yay! Okay, we get to ski together. That's awesome.
I know, that's so sick. Oh, yeah, that's going to be so much fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, Whistler is some of the most fun I've ever had, like, in my life. It's so fun. With momentum, the best camp ever.
Yeah, I haven't had the best luck with it, but it's okay. First year I went, I almost got my fingers broken because, like those they do like the handstand competitions, right?
Yeah.
It was me and like 2 other people, and then the girl next to me collapsed right on my fingers, and I did not have my gloves on.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we'll make sure that it's a better experience this year.
So, like, 2 of my fingers, or it might have been 3, almost got broken. Like, a bunch of skin came off, and they're like black and blue. It hurt so bad. And then, so I didn't ski a ton there. I did. I think I only missed like 2 days, but it still sucked because I was in pain. And then, oh my gosh, the next session, I went, and I think we were about 2 days into the camp, and this time I actually had more friends than the last session because I was older. So I'm hanging out with my friends. We go to the pool, and then we realize we don't have towels. So we go out, we leave, we go get some towels, and we come back, and then the door is locked. So this man opens the door. And when he opens the door, my foot, I didn't realize was under it, opens it, and it rips off my whole entire big toenail, just clean off. And that was so painful. So I missed like a couple days again of training, and it sucked. So I haven't had the best luck, but I'm hoping this year will be better.
Yeah, I got my fingers crossed, and yeah, we'll do everything we can. We'll make it a good year. I'm just excited to duel you. We should duel.
Oh yeah, that's what we were planning on doing for the ribbon cutting. John asked me, he was like, who would you rather duel, Liz or Tess? And I said, well, I've already dueled Liz, so I said definitely Tess. And then obviously,
that's fun. Yeah, we'll have to do that ribbon cutting next year.
Yeah, that was a bummer. But continuing on, after momentum, I'm going over to Mount Hood, Oregon, with my whole team. Then water ramps.
Yep. Yeah. I know the drill. Well, try some of those things that I said. It helped me. But you got a long career ahead of you, so just try everything you can. Switch things up. There really is no wrong answer, I've found, with like trying new things, honestly.
Yeah.
It's only going to make you better.
Yeah. That's really good advice. Thank you. So I think that has wrapped it up. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye, Tess.
Bye.